Yes, in this part of the video, we're going to go ahead, Melissa Herriges and I are going to go and look over our exit tickets for one of the last week's TEAC. Specifically, magnetism is, I think it's 5.A, right? I think it's 5.A.
Yeah, 5.5A is
5.5A.
identify properties of matter.
Of matter and magnetism is
Yes,
one of
the properties.
within that. So this is the portion of the exit ticket review at this point, and we'll go ahead and get started. All right. Melissa, thank you so much for allowing me to take this part of the review of the exit tickets. I'm going to dive right into it right away. We have approximately 119 exit tickets for all of your students who took this last week. And very pleased with the success of 103 students who got the correct ABCD question, but also the open-ended question that has to do with the concept. It seems like the bulk of your students are getting that, which is awesome. I think it's a great percentage, over 90%. What I want to focus with you now is on that other 10%, because a part of our efforts to help you to become a master teacher, which you're on your way to becoming. We want to look and identify, by looking at the exit tickets, what are some of the things that we can do to help these students achieve, the level of success that everybody else is achieving right now.
Right.
Okay. So my first question to you would be is that I noticed that we have 3 different categories of students who struggle with the exit ticket. I saw 2 students who got it totally wrong. I saw 8 students who had the wrong ABCD answer, but conceptually on the open-ended side, they seem to understand what magnetism is. And then we have 6 students who had the correct ABCD answer, but couldn't muster an idea or a sentence for the open-ended portion of the question. So let's start first with the open-ended question, students who didn't put anything.
Yeah.
What your assessment is and how do you think you can help those students? And then we'll go to the other category.
Okay, so for the students that got the ABCD question correct, but weren't able to formulate their own sort of definition for magnetism, I would do some sort of reteach where we talk more about the conceptualization of it. So they're able to identify which objects are magnetic and which ones are not, but they're not able to put down a concrete definition and say what magnetism is. So I think for me, that reteach would look something like going over the definition, going over examples of those definitions, and then having the students put the definition in their own words and come up with their own examples of what a magnet was and what were things that were attracted to magnets, what objects were not attracted to magnets.
And how does that differ when you first presented the concept to them? How different is that from the first teach?
Well, the first way we did it was slightly more exploratory, so giving them a magnet and asking them to find out which objects were magnetic and which were not. So this time, front-loading it, and instead of going into the exploration of it, having them be directly taught what is and is not considered a magnet, and then going back and seeing if they can identify things with a magnet.
So what I hear you saying is that you first went with the inquiry-based approach, and like 90% of your students were very successful with that. Now you'll be adjusting it to more direct teach, mini lesson type?
Yes. Before going into
and having them explore again
yes.
before going into the hands-on.
Yes.
Okay. So kind of like providing them some context, which would help them perhaps better understand this time.
Right, the concept of magnetism.
Okay. And when do you think you'd be doing something like that? Would that be like before school, after school, during, what kind of type of small group?
I think that could be a small group, depending on the time of the exit ticket. The exit ticket in this example was done at the very, very end portion of class. So going back and doing a small group wouldn't necessarily be what I would do. However, pulling them in either in after-school tutoring or in some sort of Saturday school session would be my next approach with these students.
Great. That sounds good to me. So what I expect for you to do with these students when I look at your data moving forward is within our intervention plans that we have for specific students on Saturday school and so on, like these students specific names come up and us being able to service them during those times.
Right.
Which is great. That should work with them. We have another group of students that I want you to talk about as well. So I had 8 students who had the wrong answer for the ABCD portion of the question, but yet when I look at the open-ended portion of the questions, they had the idea of magnetism that attracts to stuff, that attracts to metal, sticks to metal. I see a lot of the vocabulary, scientific vocabulary here. And so conceptually they're getting it, but yet they struggle to get the ABCD question correct. And what do you think
I think for them, this would be more kind of like along the lines of exploring which objects are and are not magnetic, but also identify like what those materials are that is being attracted to. So, for example, the magnetic options are made of iron and steel and some sort of metal.
Mm-hmm.
And so, having them identify that as a characteristic of something that is magnetic is something that I see them not having yet developed, because they're able to define what a magnet is, but they're not able to necessarily define the characteristic. So rubber is not magnetic. So when they see rubber band, they're not realizing that it's made of rubber, or a wool mitten. So making sure that they understand that the material is what makes it not magnetic. And so the composition of whatever that example is the part that makes it not magnetic.
Very good.
And what makes it magnetic, yeah.
Which is also part of the TEAC 5.5A. Understand the characteristics. I thought initially, I first thought it was more vocabulary perhaps, but it might be where they know what magnetic is.
They know it's either attracted to a magnet or not, but they're not realizing that it's...
And they know what a rubber band is.
Right.
But they don't know the characteristics within that. Okay.
What makes a rubber band not magnetic?
Right.
Being rubber makes it not magnetic.
So what would be your strategy then, to specific strategy, so let's put it in context. So you want to have these 8 students be able to like do better next time?
Yes.
So what is something you would do?
I think what I would do is I would have objects of all these, like a rubber band, a wool mitten, a plastic bottle, and then an iron washer, and say, this one is magnetic because, or this one is not magnetic because. And like having them, first me saying, this rubber band is not magnetic because it's made of rubber. And then giving them an eraser and say, why is this not magnetic? Because it's made of rubber. And so going through and saying why or why not something is or is not magnetic, with examples and with a magnet.
And how would that differ from something you may have done in class?
Like I said, in class, we just gave them objects and said, is it or isn't it? And so not explicitly saying it's not magnetic because it's made of rubber. So being a little bit more clear as to the why something is or is not magnetic.
And let me ask you, would you take an approach, and perhaps I might take the approach of explaining to them, you know, I look at the data, I run the exit ticket, and I realize that you guys were perhaps confused with the characteristics. So I want to be able to address that so you guys have a clear understanding of what the characteristics are. Kind of like providing them with a rationale for you going back and teaching them. Do you do some of that as well with them?
Right, I think so, because otherwise, if you don't say that, they're going to assume that what they did first was correct. So going back and just saying, I don't want you to be confused, but I want you to learn. And say, you know what a magnet is, but let's talk a little bit more of like some examples and non-examples. Yes.
And at what point in time would you hit something that would be specific students?
I think at the same point, and if there was time at the end of the lesson, then definitely like pulling them aside and saying, why did you choose this option? Maybe like quickly or just real discreet. I think this is a quicker fix because it seems as though they understand the conceptual idea of what a magnet is. However, they were not able to give me an example or identify the correct example.
So they just need that ability to provide you with the example.
So for this, I would say, why is the rubber band magnetic?
You'd be like, miss, because when I stick it, it's...
And then I think they would eventually
realize that it was
that was not the best answer. And I think they would
come to
the realization that, oh, an iron washer was the best example.
And maybe even the washer part of the iron part.
Yes, they might have not even realized what is a washer.
It's not like a washeria. Like
and so introducing this, like the key word here is iron. Iron is a metal, so therefore iron is the magnet.
Okay. So good ideas on those. And then we have 2 students who had the questions totally wrong. And if you know the students, let me see, I have Andres here and Christopher. Can you tell me a little bit about Christopher and Andres?
These students both are some of our students that we service for individualized learning plans. And so I think part of something that I would go over with them more thoroughly is maybe checking for like words, like noticing that in this it says iron, and doing another reteach that was in a smaller group and more direct, more experience with me, the educator.
What I'm gonna do. That would be
Yes.
the kind of tutoring that we just have two of them perhaps.
Right, exactly. A
I
very
agree.
small group.
And I know Andres and Christopher, they have them with individual plans as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it takes for
Mm-hmm.
them to get an understanding
And making sure that for this specific student that it's not the language barrier.
as well.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds good. Sounds very good. Again, I want to go ahead and commend you on the way you're putting the exit tickets together, the way you're sorting the exit tickets, the way you're keeping track and keeping them in your files. It's awesome. I can go in there. I can look at Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You have your trackers up with the data for the exit tickets. You have them in an actual file. I can just pull them out
Right.
and get to sort them out as well. So that helps a whole lot. Like the composition of the actual exit ticket, so I'm just going to go ahead and show here for the camera's purposes. So we not only do we have A, B, C, D type questions, there's a open-ended question where the student needs to provide their whys, their rationale why, their definition for the concept and use the word in the sentence as well. So I think it's very it's higher rigor, and based on the answers that I read, I believe that you're using some exemplar type responses already,
Mm-hmm.
which is some feedback that you got before, and I can see it in most of the sentences that I saw had a similar like stem, and which helps me to see and understand that you're actually using those during the lesson as well. Which
Right.
helps a lot.
Yep, we talked a lot about vocab.
So thank you so much, Ms. Herriges. Appreciate your
Oh.
help with the exit
Mhm.
ticket portion of the review for the 6+1. Again, this is Robert Acosta, Allen Academy, and Melissa Herriges, science teacher. Fifth grade. Thank you.
Okay.